So, hi, good afternoon, everyone. And this is Sanjeev Jain, your host today. Thanks for joining in well in time. So, it's 4 and we will begin. And I promise we will close sharp at 5, maybe a minute here and there. We are respectful of the time, everyone's time, our experts' time, your time. So my name is Sanjeev Jain. I am a director and co-founder at Enabling World. That's the organization which is hosting this event. With me, I have my friend and partner Sushil as well, Sushil Tayal. And today we are very happy to have the presence of some really great experts and from the industry, both from business and HR. We thought the topic is such, the timing is such is good because this is a time when we start reflecting on how the year has gone, what do I do in the next year on the HR plan, which can be very effective in helping the business. So we thought we'll pick up this as a topic and to share their insights and guide all of us. We have three experts, industry veterans and experts in HR and business. So let me introduce them to you first before we get into the session. So let me start with Birinder Rana. He is a business head in Dabur, India, and he takes care of FMCG and therapeutics divisions or the verticals within Dabur. He's based at Saibabad, near Delhi in NCR region. And I can tell you and he's a veteran for more than 20 years into pharma, mainly in medical devices industry. She's very, very busy. This time was very difficult because it's a year-end, quarter-end closing, and you know the pressure that can be there on business head. But he still came in spite of that, and we are, sir, quite very obliged and honored to have you here in this session. This is primarily will be mostly HR people, so we'll have a senior business leader be there to guide us what we should do and not do. So thank you very much for joining in today, Brindaji. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeev, for a nice introduction and pleasure to be here. Look forward to a meaningful discussion now.
Perfect, sir. Thank you. And then let me introduce Ramya Menon. She is again a very senior HR leader, more than 2 decades of experience on variety of HR roles, mostly strategic HR. She is currently the head of people and culture at Edifacts India, and she's based at Bangalore. And I had the fortune of working with her as a colleague for a few years in IBM, and she has worked in very good brands like Flipkart, IBM for long years, Infosys, and now Edifact. So all great companies that she has worked for, and she's very knowledgeable in HR field, strategic HR. So we'll, Ramya, look forward to your insights during the session. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev, for giving me the opportunity. And I really look forward to having some interesting conversations and adding value to all my fellow colleagues on this call today.
Yeah. Sure, we look forward to it. So we're going to have some interesting discussions. And last but not least is Chini, Chaitanya Srinivas. We call him Chini. That is simple. So Chini, let me introduce. He has been my manager at one point of time in IBM and a great human being and colleague. He's, I would say, of various HR people that I've seen and met, he's really a global from his experience, his education. He studied in US, so he has that global perspective. And he's currently the VP of HR for Aptiv. And before that, he was global head of talent in Kindle. And in IBM, he was AP head for talent. So he is one of the very few strategic HR leaders that I have come across and met. And we're going to learn a lot from him, from his wisdom, from his experiences. So Chini, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Sanjeev, and happy to be here and happy to share. And again, I think you've been very kind to me. So let's have a good conversation. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so guys, just a quick thing. I mean, please keep sharing your thoughts and questions. We got some questions while people were registering, and I'll use some of them. Some will come from me, and we'll go in a random order. I mean, so feel free. Anyone who wants to jump in and you're excited or passionate about any topic, please jump in. But I'll go in a random order. That is one. Secondly, to audience, please share your questions and remarks in the chat. I may invite you, depending on the time, for some live questions during the session or towards the end. That's what we'll do, and we will finish, close to at around 5. That's what we promised, right? So let's, before we go there, let me also briefly introduce Enabling World to you. Enabling World is the organization that I represent. Along with Sushil, we run it. So our focus is, we are running now 11th year with your good wishes, and thanks to all the customers, our esteemed customers, and the colleagues and the partners. We are running 11th year, and we are boutique organization, but we are into multiple areas like HR consulting, advisory. We are a significant solutions and the presence in leadership and talent development. Being in HR, that's core to us. Diversity and inclusion is something that I would say in last 4-5 years has come up as one of the important segment for us. We do a variety of things, consulting and helping our clients in this space. Outsourcing, very limited, selective basis, but employee well-being, maybe accidentally, but we got into it for last 10 years. Is today, I would say, is one of the largest segment for us on employee well-being. And I think that is one thing we'll discuss. The focus of HR on employee well-being has really gone up in last 3-4 years, thanks to pandemic. There's a lot of realization and awareness about employee well-being as a key focus. So these are some of the areas that we work on. So okay, so Vijay, you can stop sharing, and then we'll now get into this session. So are we ready, Chini, Ramya, Brenderji? Can we go ahead with your permission?
Sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so Chini, let me first start with you. The whole challenge about, so the topic is about HR strategy and the plan that we have, and how do we make it really practical, useful, keeping employee business in mind, and which really helps the business grow, right? And meet the purpose for which the organization is set up. So the biggest question that we have, and that could be an opener, and maybe Brendaji, you can comment, Rama, you can comment also on this opening question. How do you, first of all, align HR plan and the strategy with the business plan, right? It's a simple question, but it's a very big question, right? So maybe any opening comment from you, Chini, and then Birendaji, I would request you to chime in from your experience, because I know you hold the business head, but you are leader, right? Cross-functional leader, right? So you have been heading HR, all the functions in the business that you drive, right? So I'm sure you'll have a lot of expertise. But Chini, why don't you start?
So Sanjeev, I think the first thing is, from a HR perspective, while we all get a seat at the table, we have to know our business, have to know the enterprise, have to know the company, have to know the industry that the company is in and we are operating in. I think one of my mentors told me very early in my career, drop a penny and follow the penny through. And what it literally means is we need to know how the company makes money. And then everything else around it falls into place in terms of how do you align to that. What's the operating model of the industry? What's the operating model that your company is pursuing? One of the questions I ask my team is, if you're a public company, have you gone on an investor call? Have you gone on, the quarterly reports? Have you gone on your annual report? Have you gone on your chairman or the chief's call with the investors, which typically happens once a quarter? I think it's those small nuggets that keep you grounded, keep you aligned, and then it becomes more of how do I support that. So I think first and foremost, I would say for all of HR, if you want to continue with that seat on the table, if you want to contribute, if you want to look at how to align, you actually need to be part of that business and understand the company, understand the leadership, the dynamics, understand how it makes money. And I think post that is where everything else starts, because that's core. And then once you get to that level, then it becomes very clear what HR and HR strategy needs to be to support that. Or it helps you. Let me say, never that easy, but it helps you get into a strategy mode, from that point. Let me pause there. Birendra, Ramya, I'm sure you have a view on this as well.
Maybe let me invite Brindaji first. Brindaji, your experience, and you, while we are all mostly HR people, but you can be very candid and critical
No, absolutely. I
and
think
guide us.
Chini gave me the right clue to really build on, and I think right to mention this. I think a lot of business HR partnerships only flourish when HR is very business-like understanding. So if you do not join in some of the reviews, don't join in some of the meetings, you will remain clueless exactly on what does it mean to be on the other side, and what are the kind of challenges we face. I think I would say that Dabur, thankfully, is an organization which works on those paradigm. But let me tell you, COVID has actually made it even better for all of us, because we all come on forums to kind of discuss. When we created these war rooms during COVID, one of the war room was also about the senior management, discussing continuously about how do we engage employees and how do we keep it going without anyone losing job and all that. And that's where HR had a lot of role to play. So I would I think echo the same sentiment, that I think it's very important for HR leaders to I'm not saying actively participate in business, but I think actively participate in some of the review meetings and understand business a little better, because then you will be able to support the business much better, because your point of views will be valued way beyond just being mentioned about doing that job of what business is. Because a lot of times HR also submits themselves to what business wants. But I being I was in HR, so I play the dual role most of the time
Yes.
with HR as well. That I always tell them, I said, it is always wise for you to challenge us back on what we are trying to do. So I think very important that HR and today's HR, I think the way the economic growth is happening, I think it's important for HR to be a lot of business understanding HR, and involve themselves into the day-to-day things, and what happens and what is the grind that people are going, because expectations of the corporate is increasing. My bottom boxers keep increasing because my expectation from the business is increasing. So how do I lift those bottom boxers up itself is a big challenge. That's where HR partnership helps me to really put up right perspective to those employees, that how can we handle them to the next level.
Sure. So, Brindaji, can I ask you one follow-up question? And Ramya, I'll come to you.
Sure.
We say that the HR strategy and the plan is influenced by the business plan, right? The business strategy, right? How much of business strategy is influenced by HR? I mean, in your experience, right? I mean, when you create your business plan, how much of this is influenced by HR?
I would not say I don't think so. You can separate these two things out very easily.
Correct.
If you really want a very good a business plan to be successful, I think I always believe some of those decisions in terms of hiring or putting up people and all that, if those do not gel very well or don't tangle very well with HR and business, I don't think so those business plans can succeed as well. So there is an integral. I think it is somewhere. The surely people plan do come from business plans, but I think it is the other way around as well sometimes.
Okay, sometimes it is there. It is there, right?
Yes.
So we talk more about it. How can HR itself influence? And Ramya, you want to add anything to this as an opening comment from you before we go into some other dimensions of this?
Sure. Like Chinni and Birender rightly said, I also believe that HR strategy cannot be dichotomous, right? It is not either people or business. It can never function that way. And we heard from two experts before me. I wouldn't repeat that part, but I just wanted to also point to this fact that a business strategy or an organization goal is always tied to a purpose, right? A central purpose, a reason why an organization exists, right? So as HR folks, what we must understand while we understand the business is also what is that North Star that the organization is working towards, and therefore, right, what we do to contribute to that and how we do it, therefore becomes very important. Yeah. So then we break down, when we break down an organization strategy into deliverables for HR, for instance, let's say our company goal, for example, is we want to continue. One of the aspects is we want to continue to be a great place to work. So as a people and culture team, as an HR team, how do we translate this into creating, let's say, a successful employer brand, hiring the best in class talent, enabling them, and so forth? So all of these aspects will come in towards building the goal. So once you understand the purpose and once you understand where the organization's headed, then it becomes very clear to you as to where do you stand in the overall scheme of things and how do you contribute to that. So that's just my submission for a start.
Perfect. Perfect. So, I mean, there's some comments that, especially Asim is sharing that in MSMEs, sometimes, the organization doesn't understand HR as a business leader. It is both ways, my friend. It is for HR to stand up to that occasion, right, and show that, you matter. People will recognize it is both ways, and it takes time. So it's a tussle that we keep hearing. Who is at fault? But I think, in my personal view, and we'll have this conversation as we go along, it is at times, it is for upon us as well as HR professionals to rise up and to show our mettle that we understand. People will have no option but to acknowledge, right? Okay, so Chini, coming back to you again, lot of time I keep hearing, as Asim is saying many times, frustration that, oh, we proposed something and the business did not understand, they stuck it down, etc. And the big challenge here is, how do we create, even if assuming you've created a sound HR plan and a strategy, but there has to be buy-in, right? Buy-in from different people, but mainly from your business leader, right? Any trick, I mean, trick is a wrong word, any guidance to us to how to overcome that challenge and hurdle of getting the buying in of the business leaders of whatever plan you're working on? I'm sure you would have done into those boardroom meetings multiple times. So your experience, can you guide us?
I don't think there is any one recipe or one trick on this, Sanjeev. I think it comes about building trust, about understanding each other. I think Virender said it very well. You can't have a business plan without people. You can't have talent without the company. So they all go hand in hand. And I think one other thing Virendra also mentioned was, he's come from HR. So does HR stand up? How do they contribute to that plan and actually give the right inputs? If we go a little deeper, I think what's coming out is really two things that the business always looks for. It doesn't matter which business you're in. One is productivity, and then the second one is the experience. And it goes through many layers. So productivity can be, for the company, for the HR professional, the practitioner, and it could be measured in many ways. End of it, it's also for the company on how they're measuring cost, how they're measuring, output, revenue, profitability. The second part is experience. We alluded in terms of a shared goal or an direction for the company and the people, but it's also the experience at every level, as an employee, as a manager. So I think to answer your question of how do you carry this through with the business leaders, you got to go holistically, look at what those productivity levers are, look at what those gains can potentially be, look at what changes that you're proposing would drive in terms of experience, and I think you got to build and weave a story with data behind it, and I think that's very important. And then it's those little wins that add up to the big win. When you carry the business, they want you to show those little wins, and I think that's what makes a difference. If you can show those little wins and they quickly add up, they say a small snowflake adds up to a big snowball. So that's typically how you want to push, get those little wins for your team, for yourself, and then keep pushing harder.
And Brinda, I mean, I'm sure you must be receiving a lot of strategy or the plans or the proposals or interventions from HR in Dabur or in earlier organizations that you've seen. What is your perspective? Do you think generally HR is good in creating those proposals, etc., or business cases for all the investment they're making as a part of the plan? What's your guidance? What's your experience?
I think fundamentally, it all goes back those two words that we use and misuse the most. It's never about I, it is about we. And I think the time you bring in this we in that, partnership, because see, it's not about you rejected my candidate or you didn't offer it to the person I wanted. These are very small battles to fight. And I think it all starts by setting very clear. I think Chini also mentioned the same thing. I think it's about setting the goalpost right. So whenever we set some of the philosophies, so I'll tell you why I was busy. I'm setting up a business in therapeutics. So I, in fact, had a very, very clearly crafted expectation mailed to the regional HR and the HR head that I am looking at these companies. I'm looking at this kind of an experience that should come in. I'm looking at this is a typical candidate profile. And these are 5-6 questions that I want them to answer before they come on the panel for an interview. So do that filtering at a HR level, then let the head of sales take it, and then probably let the business head take it, and then we close. It actually fast-tracked our hiring because I was looking at hiring 125, 30 people. And the first estimate was it'll take a 2 months time. And I think today we are on 19th, and I think we are left with 10, 11 positions to close. So this can only happen till you play a role of interdependence. You just can't, I always say this, and I understand, and I'm sure my Ramya and Chini would feel the other way around, but HR and the business side, I have played part of both the sides, so I can absolutely relate the pain on both sides most of the time. And that's why I'm able to kind of, soften that up a lot of times in our meetings. But another point on what Chini mentioned about productivity, I think it's, some of these parameters, are sometimes not very well understood by our, HR colleagues. And that's where that decision making in terms of that individual comes on a discussion point and mail exchanges happen. I think it's important that we keep that element very, very clear, and those metrics are very, very clearly defined, and the logics behind those metrics. So expectations cannot be 150%. Let's be honest, in today's world, let's have a very realistic expectation and let that be communicated very well. That's when all the metrics and the dashboards will flow the way you want.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a great advice and practical suggestion from your experience. And I think one challenging thought would be, and sometimes I am also guilty of saying that we sometimes say HR and business. HR is business, right? HR is a part. So it's not a dichotomy, right? It's business. It's business. So we make business. Absolutely. Right. So, Chi, coming back to you, there's a recent, report I was reading. It was, Deloitte's on the human capital trend. That's one report that I always look forward to because it's very research-based, interesting. And recently, it did talk about that organizations moving from thriving organizations. Sometimes the concepts keep changing, right? From a surviving organization, thriving organizations to a driving organization where you as a business, you are driving the market, right? When organizations are going into that mode where they are not only following what the industry trends are, they are driving the business, they're driving the market. How do you think strategically HR can support business in achieving that goal? It's little very high level, philosophical, but I think it's truth at a strategic level. So any quick guidance from you on that?
I think no easy answer. I think
Yeah.
it's all what we are talking about. We have to partner. We have to look at how we can drive things together. This misnomer that change is constant, I think we have gone beyond that. Change is going to be part of everyday's life. And it's going to get faster and faster, whether it's the industry, company, processes, the tech stack, that support us, etc. But there's an underlying thing. I think Virendra and both Ramya, both of you said, we have to align together. We have to build that partnership. We have to look at how we can not just do better, but also thrive and do much better. And I think that comes from building trust, that comes from having a sound foundation. It also comes from having the right systems and processes in place, which again, keep evolving, keep changing, but the core has to be that. I think from that perspective, a lot to do. One thing that's kept me in HR is it's never been the same every year.
Very dull moment.
It just keeps growing. It just keeps going in directions. If you had asked me 2 years ago to give you a 3-year plan, I would be so wrong. But if you give a 12-month plan, probably I'll be a little closer to reality. But that's the nature, and I think that's what's exciting as well. So it's about getting that trust, that common purpose, and I think that drives a lot of how you can thrive together in an environment that's very quick and very drastically changing. So I think from that perspective, it's those foundations that you build early on and continue to grow, which gets you through.
So, Brindaji, I mean, coming to you, and Ramya, I'll come to you with a very specific question that I'll come to you very shortly. But Brindaji, before that, I want to ask you, when we talk about organizations driving the market, right? I mean, you're a business leader. I'm sure you are driving it, right? What support do you need from HR for you to be successful as a business leader in driving the market in the area that you want to be into?
I think there is an overdrive, of things that is happening. The expectations in the last couple of years have multiplied. So if you look at the human resource which we are getting today. So we are in 2023, and we are now getting actually the Gen Zs and a generation which is very, very different than what we were brought. So we are born in 70s, right? And we are getting people born in 2000. I think till the time you do not mentally align that thought process, I don't think so you will be able to make success in business at all, because what you are trying to serve them is not what they want. In Dabur, there's a very good system. All the new joinees have interaction with the business heads and try and understand, and we usually go and address these IMs and the the top colleges students that we hire. Invariably, their want and our offering a lot of places there is a big gap. So we grew at a time where what boss said was always right. I today strongly feel that doesn't stand. It doesn't stand today, because I think they bring a very different perspective.
Which is good. Which is
very good. Absolutely, it's very fresh, and I
True.
think I have one at home, so I know what I gather at home from my daughter a lot of times. So that is one. Secondly, I think as the expectations are rising, are we upping our ante to match that kind of a human resource, or trying to bring in that kind of a talent pool is also something which I think HR and business partnership has to work along. Like I said, I think how HR can help me do that better, or become a good business partner, is I think understanding the changes happening in the environment today, and sourcing the right kind of profile is a very important element. And more than I think sourcing, I think it's about retaining people. So I, in one of my businesses, found that we're losing people in the first 12 months, and I think if you dissect and cut it across, a lot of attrition happening in the first year, and this can be attributed to many things. But if my wisdom supports me, I think it's a lot about maybe in the first 3 months wrong hiring, or maybe a wrong fitment, and then in the next 6 months it may be not a proper handholding and everything, and then maybe in the next 6 months it may be supervisor not being up to the mark, and typically we understand that people don't leave companies, they leave supervisors. So tying this itself, and probably having a very strong onboarding system, I think HR has to do that hand-holding with these new comers today, because I think they come with a very different expectation from companies. And this, I'm solely talking about my interaction in the last 2 years with the group of people that we are hiring. Their expectations are very different than what expectations people had in the last probably before.
I think two key things that you're saying, that keep the multi-generational perspective in mind. While the organization is one, purpose is one, but keeping different perspectives together, aligning, assimilating all together is one important factor. And getting the right talent, of course, has been. And I can understand that, Brinda, in IBM, my last role was a global head of talent acquisition in a very large business unit called Technology Services. And that was the first time. My career was a little unique. Towards the fag end of my corporate stint, I got into a vertical role. You normally do the other way around.
The other way around, yeah.
And he is responsible. He got me there. And and I had my huge learning, first few months. But and it's so difficult, getting, and we were hiring very large number, maybe around 20,000 plus kind of thing in a year, right, across the globe. And it was quite challenging, right? I mean, it was hard for me, but I got there somehow. But I can understand getting a talent can be the game winner, actually, because if you don't have a talent, nothing else works, right? Right. So that's the first basic step. So getting there. Ramya, coming to you. Thank you, sir. Ramya, coming to you. Whatever plan we make, right? Any plan is a piece of paper unless it is executed well, isn't it? Now, how do you, in your, experiences as HR head, head of people and culture, and your business HR partnering role, how do we know that we are moving in the right direction, that your plan is working, right? What matrices, how do you keep control of that? Any tips from you on that?
Sure. Yeah. So as human resources, we typically, are goaled or measured on, let's say, employee satisfaction, on the retention percentage, right? Percentage of employees.
So whose target is this? Let me ask you.
I was just going
target
to
is this? That attrition number is whose target? HR's target or business target or people managers target? Whose target is? I have not been able to solve this, actually.
Yeah, so that is a very classic battle, right? I don't know if Birinder can throw light because he's been on both sides, but it is a joint commitment. It can't be HR's target, neither can it be business target, right?
And sometimes it can depend on the result. If you are achieved good, then everyone will claim, oh, I'm accountable.
Yeah, I did well on that. Yes. As HR, we can enable business to meet the target, but unless we provide, an enabling ecosystem, business cannot achieve the target just by themselves, right? So I don't know, it's like a chicken and egg story, if you will, right? Who takes the accountability for it first and what comes after. But in any case, I think the matrices by far are the people experience matrices that we are, measured, right, or gold on. And how do we know this? We're achieving this, right? In my experience, what I've seen working is to break down the annual plan or a strategy into small bite-sized units, be it quarterly, however you want to call it. I think quarterly, so it's better for the most part, and do check-ins very regularly to see what have we managed to achieve, right? And where are we headed? Is it the right direction? Is this goal even realistic? Can we achieve it? Is it let's say a lofty claim that we were very aspirational, we took it up? Yeah. So that helps you keep the reality in check. It also helps business give us feedback, right? So we keep our ears to the ground as HR all the time, right? So you get a sense from the business about whether is it still relevant for them, because in a quarter things may have changed, for all you know, right? It could be the external environment, it could be some change in strategy internally, whichever way. So it helps to keep a check. So break it down into small consumable, units. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So which is what I have seen, working to keep us aligned to the overall goal and also keep it in check, whether we're progressing in the right direction or otherwise. Yeah.
Chini, any add-on, if you want to add on, because, and how do we, see that whatever efforts the people plan, I won't say it's HR's plan, it's a people plan for the organization. Is it really moving the right direction? It is helping the business goals being met properly or not? So what kind of additional measurement or checks you suggest we should keep?
I think, the old saying of plan, execute, measure, iterate, or plain simple thing as if you plan, execute, if you fail fast and recourse, right? I think that has become key, Sanjeev. Large
Yeah.
organizations typically would have had annual plans, before. They had a roadmap, and then within that, an annual plan, and you did not deviate from that. If you deviated from that, you needed literally, a senior management team blessing that change in plan. But today, all of that, I think, is very different. It's almost quarterly, if not even less. Course correction is almost a standard thing of doing. And I think while you have a true north, and the true north can be more in terms of the organization goals, common purpose, etc. The plans itself are becoming micro and smaller, and they start iterating while you keep something true north. For example, attrition. Ramya, I'm going to put you on the spot since you brought it up. What's the right number? And I think there is no answer to that. I think there may be, in some roles, you may say, hey, look, I want this to be a stable segment. In some, you're saying it's okay if there's attrition. What's the inherent knowledge that you'll have in that role? As processes are getting automated, as processes are getting simplified, then there is no knowledge to transfer. Then hey, maybe it's okay to have attrition. There are other benefits of it. In some roles, it's not that easy. It comes again back to, in my view, productivity and experience. Same thing is happening in our market. Don't underestimate that. Barendra sir, you said this very well. We have 5 generations in our workforce, but the customer also has 5. There are 5 generations out there. So I think there's a fair bit. So when you come back and look at HR plans, when you come back and look at company plans, they're highly iterative today. The cycles have become much smaller. Micro measures to make up the macros, I think, have become key, and that's how you track things. It's no longer one measure. It's a lot of little things, again, that you're measuring. If you take productivity, if you take, attrition, for example, before you probably measured attrition at a whole holistic level, but now you're looking at segments within the company and saying, okay, there's some good attrition, there's some not so good attrition, and that's okay. So I think that's how measurements are also evolving with the plans. Lot shorter cycles, lot micro, but keeping true north in mind.
Actually, Ichini, I'm reminded of one, I'll share, one instance when when I was heading HR for in a very large unit, I won't name the company, and I had a business leader. She was a French American, and I was presenting a business plan to her, and I put up some very aggressive retention numbers. Oh, we will reduce attrition by 7-8%, something like that. And her comment was, Sanjeev, I can't afford such a low attrition. And I was puzzled. I said, what? I mean, I've never heard someone business-led saying that I can't afford such low attrition. And I said, let's have a cup of coffee. And then she, told me in a business terms that if I have such a low attrition, how it will adversely affect my business. And I had my learning, and I thanked her for that. I paid for the coffee. I said, I will do that. That's a token gift I can give you. But she said, no, we can't afford attrition less than that, actually. And to typical HR person like me, it was a shock. How can it be, less attrition is better attrition? She said, no, we can't afford, our economics will not support this, right? So you're right. I mean, so these are experiences through which you mature and you grow and you start understanding, right? If you're, deeply engaged kind of thing. Absolutely.
And just to add one thing, Sanjeev, here, I still go back to the old HR fundamental. I still feel the bell-shaped curve still become a very big help for me when I draw out the year end, what attrition I want, what is my bottom I'm going to clean up, because, I inherited a business which had a lot of people into the business for a very long time, and the business growth was very, very asymmetrical. So you have to then kind of look at what has caused this kind of, performance in the past few years. And as a business head, I've never been a business leader who will do a cleanup job first, just to, come up clean to the management and say that, hey, I have cleaned up. But I think I took the team along and kind of, built that basic fundamentals. So
Great.
expectations being very, very clear. And I think and I also, really appreciate what Ramya mentioned. I think regular check-ins is a very, very important. I think a lot of places I think we do miss, and we are in a truly VUCA world today. Things are changing, like unexpected things happen. And how do you really counter, and how do you align yourself in that very short window is very, very important today. And I think that can only happen when you have regular check-ins and kind of have very, very clear
That's true.
milestones to achieve. Yes.
That's true. And maybe Chini, to you, and Ramya, to you also, how do you, when we create an HR plan, at times that becomes a very secret document between you and the CEO. This is what our plan would be, right? But, a people plan is for the people. It should be widely known. So what's your guidance on how do you communicate the people strategy, across the organization at all levels, including the employees, who are the real stakeholders, right? The center of the whole thing is the employees, right? So how do you communicate? I mean, what has been your experience and guidance?
Sanjeev, I think in today's context, you cannot communicate more or less, because communication is absolutely key. There is nothing as
Never enough. It's never
There is
enough.
nothing as over communication in today's world. I think it needs to be from the top, as a leader, as a manager, as a colleague. It has to be very open, very transparent. I think enterprises are also moving towards that. Some industries a lot faster than others, but that's where it's headed. If you recollect, some time ago, salary increase cycles, take that as an example, used to be extremely secretive. You would get a sheet and that's what it used to be, and you just pointed up and said that's what I got, and you just moved on. But today it's the manager making those decisions. It's a budget that you have, and then you are held accountable on how you're going to meet your objectives of your team and your group. And that is becoming more and more across the board prevalent. Maybe some of the services industry took the lead on it, but even the manufacturing side, that's coming out. So I think communication, getting that ideas out there. As we spoke earlier, 5 generations, they understand things differently in a different media, in a different manner. Some like to read, some like to hear about it, some like to look at that idea. So I think it's very important we embrace that. It's no longer write a note out to all the all company note. It could be multimodal, but there's never a situation where you can over communicate, and I think that's key across the company to your customers. Communication and being open and transparent and being authentic, I think, is becoming very key in today's context.
Right. So that's true. Anything, Brindaji, in your experience, you want to add on to in terms of communication so that people get it right and the whole organization is aligned to the same philosophy, same plan, same direction?
I say this, I think every forum that I address the team, I think over communication is, I don't believe in over communication. You have to, if there is a vision, if there is a purpose, it has to be communicated. And as much as many times you do, I tell you, you will always find it less. Not everyone takes it the way you give it. So there are people who take it at the first go. There are a couple of buying in comes in the second month, third month. So I think getting that message across to people more often, I think it's very, very, and very, very important and crucial in today's time, because I think they also have a lot of distraction. Let me also on the go on the people side as well. There's too much of openness in sharing everything that is happening around. So I think keeping people focused on the purpose, I think, is very important, because otherwise what non-performance may not kill you, but the grapevine may definitely take you somewhere else. And I think it's important
Good
that
advice.
yeah, it's very important that you keep communicating the team. And I think when you as a business leader or a HR head or a owner communicate that to people, I think that has more value than coming from any other source. And when continuously you communicate the same message, I think people respect you and your word than what the music is going around. So I think it's very important to keep people aligned to this kind of a thought process.
You know what I like is, I mean, communicate what is right and useful for them rather than, flooding with unnecessary information can be distracting. Absolutely.
Absolutely, you cannot have more than two, three, purpose to deliver in people's mind. One is the overarching thing, and what are those two steps getting you there? I think that's where you keep them aligned and keep them wise.
Okay. So Ramya, thank you, sir. Ramya, coming to you.
Yep.
Simple question, which I got from one of the participants. In a typical HR plan, may not be your organization, but what you see around in CHRO's agenda, what could be a couple of things that are there today consistently, which were not there maybe 2, 3 years back, right? So what has changed in the key simple words? What has changed in last 2, 3 years as the key focus for CHROs, if I would say, which was
Right.
not there earlier? Maybe Chris, quick answer.
Sure. I think the hybrid work model is something that is new, right? Yeah, different companies are dealing with it differently. Some call it virtual first, some are remote, some, a few days in office or whatever. So I think it's important to recognize that the current generation would want to work from wherever they believe they're going to be productive, right? So while we have an organization construct and we like a particular way of working, I think the way we can retain more associates or employees is by recognizing that they'd like to work from wherever they are productive. And secondly, is the focus on well-being. I think we all did well-being in some shape or form in the last many years, right? But however, well-being is not just physical well-being anymore, right? It is social, it is emotional, it is financial. There are all of those aspects. So how, as a CHRO, can I then make sure my strategy talks to each of these aspects? I'm not just doing a yoga day or some fitness challenge and getting away with it, right? So what else can I do to make sure I address all of this? So these, I think, couple of things are becoming key differentiators in my view.
It was
And there
not there. I mean, if you look 3 years back, maybe it was not as prominent in the key HR plan, which is now, right?
correct.
Can you want to
Correct.
add anything to this that you see prominently into the key HR strategy, which was not there earlier, maybe 3 years back?
So I think you broke up there, Sanjeev. I'm assuming you are asking me that.
Yes,
I
to
think
you.
I just want to add to what Ramya is saying. I think new ways of working has come in from an HR perspective. I know there was a question around AI, etc. I think it's about new ways of working, trusting data. Just how you're communicating, the amount of data coming at you today is enormous. And you should be able to synthesize that data and say, what are the 1 or 2 things that the data is telling me? It's actually flipped the other way. From very little data and a lot of assumptions, now we have a lot of data where we have to see what's the right things that we want to look at. I think from a CHRO perspective, that is something that has changed, that wasn't there. The transparency is also bringing new things coming at you. So when that's coming at you, you should be able to quickly synthesize and say, okay, out of these 20 things that came, here are the 2 important things, and that's what I can further communicate out. So I think that new way of working, trusting data, trusting models, as opposed to being intuitive and having a conversation and going with instincts, I think that's a very big change that has come from a decision-making perspective. Multi-generational workforce, one size doesn't fit all. 3 years ago or 5 years ago, probably you had one policy and everyone aligned. Now you probably have to have one policy with a lot of caveats, a lot of exceptions, and exceptions are okay. I think you got to trust that. You got to trust the employee to make the right decision for themselves. and align that with what the company needs. So I think those are another 2-3 things that have changed over the last 2-3
I think
years.
this is a good summary for all of us to keep in mind when designing the HR strategy and keeping the current trends in mind, the future of work, as you're saying, the hybrid workforce, multi-generational, how to manage multi-generational thing. Brindaji, I wanted to check with you, what do you see if you scan the horizon in next 2-3 years? What do you think will become an important uh, people initiative or people focus that we don't see as much currently? Can you point us to some of such future trend that is likely to happen as a business leader?
One of the things which is top of my mind, I think organizations have to, start accepting the new way of working. We are too much still heckled by our past of, okay, work happens only 9 to 6, sitting in an office cubicle, and, productivity comes through that. I think we have to somewhere start accepting that people who are working from home, I feel are more productive than people who are traveling 2 hours to the office and going back, because they're losing all the energy in travel rather than this. So some of the key roles, I think the organizations should become very flexible in adapting to this new way of working. And I think if organizations don't do that, I think they will definitely lose it, because this new generation expectation is not
Very,
money.
very
Let me be
different.
very clear. They have enough, and
And
money
we
doesn't.
are seeing a debate of people coming to office, working remotely. This is going on. Recently, I read something of the coffee badging. Is a new trend where people come, they register, mark the attendance, have coffee, and spend enough time, and then they go back home, and they still work from home, but they just come for the attendance. Coffee badging is a new term I read just
Oh,
maybe
okay,
a
that's
couple of days
interesting.
back.
So
Interesting.
that will, Sanjeev, that will only happen in an organization where they kind of try to make it one size fit all policy.
Correct,
So
correct.
you have to today see, please understand, organizations 10 years back, we never had so many vehicles on the road. So today traveling to office is not as good as 10 years back. So probably, you and see, we are born. So I come from Gurgaon to Delhi. I travel 3 hours. Because I lived in Bombay, for me, this is acceptable. I enjoy. But ask someone from my team to do that, they will faint. They can't do it. They said, boss, so much of travel is, it doesn't get into our head, because you lose a lot of time. But I do a lot of productive stuff. Rather, I feel I'm more productive while I travel, because I catch up a lot of calls. I do a lot of my meetings while I'm traveling. I read a lot. That's another advantage which I never had when I was staying
I
close to
hope
the
you're not
office.
driving yourself, right?
No. God has been kind. I think I've had suffered
No,
to myself for a very
the
long time.
reason I'm saying it's an alert, because a lot of us, even just a safety caution alert,
Yes.
all of us here, in terms of sometimes we do multitasking when driving. It's so dangerous.
No, but that's not a word. That's not a. I don't believe that's called multitasking. It's putting yourself in danger.
And others are dangerous.
Absolutely another. Yeah. So I think one is that. Secondly, I definitely, like I said, I think the HR has to play a significant role in putting their foot down to this new approach. And I think I feel somewhere some HR colleagues do not really portray that, because, like I said in the beginning, sometimes it becomes, a wishful hearing. So what the other guy want to listen, and you just kind of make those kind of statements. But I think we will have to move on, building this new generation into the workforce. And I definitely see, earlier I used to feel, Chenny and Ramya, that the maximum, I think, disruption during COVID happened in supply chain. But if you ask me today, I think a lot of disruption happened in HR. And I think HR has seen the challenges have changed in last 2 years. People come with a very different complaint than what they used to come earlier. So because the environment has changed, the expectation of people have changed drastically.
Correct.
So
This is a very interesting discussion. So, Ramya, there was a question around, about, and I think Utkarsh was asking a right question. I intended to ask that earlier also, is how is the technology and generative AI, as we call it, that's creating waves and sometimes chaos, but waves across. How do you think this change in technology with AI is going to, change the whole HR strategy itself, right? In very crisp manner, can you give an overview of what's happening here? And then I have one quick question and then a couple of announcements. So I know 1 hour just flew by. I don't know how, but
Right. So HR technology, I would believe, should be seen as an enabler. Just because there is an AI wave, I don't think we should all just try to get on the bandwagon if it's not relevant for us, right? It's overhyped also to some extent. That's my personal.
Thank you for saying that, because sometimes I say everything people are saying, oh, AI, ML, without even understanding what it means.
What
So
it means,
use
yeah.
it if it is useful to you, but just don't follow the trend. Thanks for saying
Don't
that.
follow the
I'm
trend.
happy.
Yeah. Use the right technology tools, because you do need technology as enablers, right? You want to bring some consistency in the organization, but don't overdo that, because a human touch at the end of the day is really what matters in our functions, right? That cannot be replaced. No robot can do that part. So do it in moderation. But yeah, be mindful of the fact that because your workers, your employees are now across the country, there will be need to use technology a little more than in the past, right? You cannot walk across to floors and pull them into meetings and discuss things out. So use them for performance management. Use a tool for retention, if you will, or engagement, any of those. But use them in moderation. That would be my take on HR technology. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'm sure all of us would agree with that. If you have any other comment to make, please do that. While I'll make one announcement, Vijay, if you can share a slide, I'll just want to make a quick announcement. While Brenda, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah.
Continue.
No, what Ramya said, I was just trying to put a very little humor into what she said. I
Please do
think
that.
people would still prefer to get a goodie bag from HR rather than get a digital card
Yeah, totally. I'm with you on that.
of welcoming.
I'd
You
prefer to
said
give
it.
a goodie bag. Yes.
You said it, sir. Absolutely. And I think humor is another thing that we must not lose sight of, actually.
I think I don't know why should we be that serious. I think we already work in very serious functions. I think we can do is just keep it light most of the time when we kind of interact and make each other's life more easier.
And the humor is a serious business nowadays. You can see so many stand-up comedians making huge money. So humor is a serious business. You're right.
Absolutely.
So just a quick announcement that as Enabling World, we do offer certain lot of HR functional education and trainings, like running an HR academy, complete about any particular across the HR function. Could it be understanding business? And interestingly, I was running a HR academy for a very large telecom operator in the country. And the HR head came and said, Sanjeev and Sushil, don't teach HR. They know HR. Please spend 50-60% of the time of this academy into making them understand how to understand business, how to read financial reports. That Chini, something like you said. And that was a learning. He said, wow. They said, no, HR, just leave it. They know HR. Tell them how to understand business. And that's where we spent. It was a huge success that we had. But I think this is something, if anyone is interested, please leverage that. That's a very quick comment from us. And so I think with this, we are coming to the close of the event. There'll be small, quick survey. Basically, we will check. It'll be on your screen. It'll be 1 30-second quick poll on how did you enjoy this discussion? Please let us know so that we keep bringing almost every month some interesting, engaging discussions around this, so that as a knowledge contribution to fellow colleagues. But please share your experience, how it has been. It'll take a few seconds. And then, with that, I think any last comment, Chini, if you have to give one advice to HR, what would that be in context of creating the sound, realistic, practical HR strategy and the plan related to that? Any one piece of advice, quick advice?
In one word, partnership. I think be
Great.
open, drive partnerships.
Ramya, what would that be for you?
I would say business acumen, right? There is never, you cannot get enough of business learning. Partnership, of course, comes with it, but business acumen for me, yeah.
All right. And Brindaji?
We are in it together.
We are in together. Wow, that's a great positive comment coming from a business leader. And that is so true. That is so true that we are all together. So I think, guys, with that, we are close to 5, and I promise that we will finish in time. But there's a suggestion here: in case you haven't registered, leave your email address here so that we can share the recording and the highlights of this session and many more updates as we come along. And thank you very much, Chini, to you, Ramya, Brinderji, to you for sharing your gems and pearls, knowledge pearls with all of us in very simple ways that I'm sure we all would learn from. And thank you, audience, for being very engaged and sharing your thoughts. There was a lot of questions and remarks going on in parallel, actually. So that was interesting. Thank you for that, and thank you, Sushil, and rest of the team for helping in organizing this session. And with that, we are coming to close of this year also. Wish you all Merry Christmas and festival time and Happy New Year to all of you. Stay safe and create great employee experience wherever you're working. So thank you very much with that.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. Really nice.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Thanks, Chini.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.